and for other reasons, I move, when I make a motion that for the February, March, and April council meetings, we would ask Ms. Blumenthal to take the minutes and produce the minutes on behalf of council, just to clear the plate a little bit for the acting clerk and give him more time to work with the deputy tax collector and kind of dial in the things that they're working on. Also, kind of as an aside, well, can I have a second and then I'll make another comment?
Second.
Thank you. I think that the contract administrator did a great job of minutes, and I think that her minutes serve well as a model for others and what we might expect moving forward as it relates to minutes, the amount of detail, et cetera, et cetera. Mayor, unless, I mean, I've heard you praise her work on that and never heard you overly critical of it. Unless you disagree with the quality of her work product, I think it's a good idea to, I mean, it gives the acting clerk and the deputy tax collector a little more space, and I think that Ms. Blumenthal would probably agree that she can get it done in 2 hours a month, all in.
Well, I'm not comfortable in just simply blindsiding her, because I don't know if that's what she even in fact wants to do. You're asking something of nature that you haven't had a conversation with her about. And she was hired as an administrative consultant, and therefore she's the administrative consultant. That's kind of like she's way past that pay grade in life of just taking minutes. She made that pretty clear to me in the past.
I have discussed it with her.
When? When? Like 24 hours ago, 48, a week, a month? When did that conversation take place, so that I know?
Do you mind if I jump in?
Not at all.
Okay, no, it's been discussed numerous times, over, I guess, the last couple months. I spoke both with the council president and I spoke with the CFO. I spoke with you about it. I had actually initially brought it up to you because I wasn't sure if you wanted me to do the minutes, but I absolutely have no issue in doing the minutes. I don't know if I could cap it at 2 hours. Some of these meetings run long, and to actually research and go back and check the data and put it in there, it gets a little time consuming. That's it. I mean, we can discuss that later if you like, but I don't have a problem doing the minutes if you want me to do the minutes, but that has to be a group decision on your part.
May I ask a question of Ms. Blumenthal, Mayor?
Go ahead.
Ms. Blumenthal, would you feel comfortable for budgetary reasons if we cap it at 10 hours for the months of February, March, and April? Do you think that would be sufficient?
For what? For the for all my work?
Just for a minute, for taking and producing minutes of council meetings, 3 council meetings, February, March, and April.
So it'd be what, like a little over 3 hours a month?
Yes.
Okay, yes, and if we have a particularly long meeting, can I just come to you and express my concern? I can always reduce the detail of the minutes, if that's the case.
Yes, if we have a particularly long meeting, certainly we will know it at the same time that you do.
Okay, yeah, no, I have no problem with that, unless there's like, it's a more detailed, long meeting, that's all.
Thank you. I think, Mayor, that, I suspect that you're going to push back a little bit on the cost, but I will tell you that based on your own comments regarding the minutes at our last meeting, the minutes of the previous meeting, and all the corrections you wanted to see made, understanding all the time that Mr. Moore is putting in at City Hall and the time that he's had to commit to meetings, et cetera, in between council meetings, I think he would be grateful, and I think indirectly Mrs. Seelman would be grateful to be relieved of that responsibility through the period in which we're analyzing their ability to meet all these new responsibilities. I don't think it's unreasonable at all. I think it's a fair cost.
Whatever. Council feels okay?
There was a motion and second for the minutes.
Yep, I think this is a roll call decision.
Mr. Dilge?
Yes.
Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Ms. Owen?
Yes.
Ms. Sparks?
Yes.
Mayor Benesia?
Yes.
Thank you.
If there's no other new business, I'd like to move down to old business. Somebody said they had some old business they wanted to bring up.
That would be me. So, at our last meeting, we had spoke about a backup plan for inclement weather. I had made several phone calls. And so I've talked to several people. I am actually still waiting for several phone calls back. I am having 2 contracts sent over so we can take a look at and go over. Would you like me to just forward them to you, Mayor, then?
I think that all of council should have them, not just only me. I mean, yes, send it to me, but send it to all of council. I will also tell you that in light of what you are doing, I've reached out to the county and I'm waiting to get a response back from them. But quite frankly, I think our biggest issue is that we have a truck. And I'm hoping that perhaps we can borrow a dump truck from the county for an emergency purpose. And I'm waiting to get a response back from them. And if we can pull that off, that would be far, far better, because then all we have to pay is whoever on emergency management, we just pay them their salary or their hourly rate, rather than getting into a contractual amount of money with someone who I'm somewhat fairly familiar with contracts with snow, and it's a rather very, very lucrative contract to get into. And most of these guys, they get paid even if they don't even have to break out the plow to come over here. We have them under a contingency or under a, what's the best word to say? We have them under contract.
Well,
Coming
all the
over here, so we
contracts
need
that I will let you know that the people I've spoke to, the contracts that I have are as a work contract. It would be no contract or no fee if no work is done. We would actually call them in when we want them to work.
And council would not have a problem if I'm able to get a vehicle from the county, correct?
I mean, I would have to see, my opinion is I'd have to see what it is and what we need to do and what's gonna cost us.
It's probably not gonna cost us anything. It's gonna be they're gonna lend it to us. It's, the county is rather very good to a lot of different municipalities, and I see no reason why they wouldn't do that for us. They've offered to even give us a truck, which is a military truck. But I don't think that would be in the best interest because of the fact that you need a CDL to operate that one there. But if we have a used vehicle that we would be able to just simply borrow from them for an emergency time, have it on standby, if that's the case, I would like to see us get into that position. That will be a fraction of the cost, literally.
All right, well, if you would like me to, I will step back and let you do the county.
Find out what the information is that you have, follow up on it, follow through, and I will follow through with my statement. And hopefully I'll have an answer back from the county soon.
Okay.
And then we'll see which is the better bargain. Okay, is there any other old business that somebody would like to discuss? Hearing none, I make a motion to open the meeting to the public.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
I see that Mr. Pogue has unmuted himself, so I assume he would like to speak.
Go ahead, Mr. Pogue.
First thing would be that for Mr. Gosson's earlier question, perhaps on the reports, if Larry can, I would imagine Larry could take them this way, if they can be sent to him electronically in a PDF, then he doesn't have to set up a time to come into City Hall. And again, we're trying to mitigate our exposure to each other. And that may be a way to do that. And then as those other reports that he was asking about do come in, then perhaps they could be sent to him, with an informal request. I should have asked this before, but did CME submit a proposal to be the landfill engineer?
Yes.
I believe they did, yes.
Okay.
And I read it.
Okay. Mr. Moore, I'll probably just send you over an Oprah for that. Also, going back to the last meeting and the closed session where there was no report made to the public, at the conclusion of that, and it's unclear what in fact would have been the contract negotiation regarding LCC. I am going to ask that one of two things to occur. I'm going to ask that the tape of that session, if it winds up not being covered as a contract negotiation, if there's no active contract, that therefore that would be released, preferably on the city website. If not, then I may exercise my rights with the Government Records Council to take other action and go from there.
What exactly are you looking for again? I think you lost me.
You had the closed session at the last meeting. Purportedly, part of it was quote unquote contract negotiation with LCC/LRS regarding landfill stuff.
You mean RCC?
I'm sorry. Yes, RCC.
That's why I was losing you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so
Yes, RCC.
and LRS. Okay.
Yeah, RCC/LRS. But it's, since there was no report made at the conclusion of that, and I'm unsure whether there was really quote unquote a contract negotiation going on versus just a status update, to put it mildly, on the landfill, then I would appreciate that particular tape portion being put on the city website. Otherwise, I may wind up having to make a complaint with the Government Records Council because if that's not covered by the exceptions on open public meetings, then we would go from there.
Mayor, can I respond?
I would very much appreciate if you would, because I was just about ready to call you in. I mean, did we do anything that was inappropriate, Mr. Lafferty?
Let me explain to Mr. Pogue what was the topic of discussion, and no official action was taken. There is a contract proposal from RCC that was discussed. It was not the status of the landfill that was discussed. It was the contract proposal from that vendor. And at this juncture, the mayor and city council have elected not to take any action on that at this point. They're still reviewing the matter and getting input from other sources. So it would harm the city's interest in the negotiations with that vendor to release that information at this time. So,
I'm sorry, we're going to let you finish.
that's fine. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I hear what you said. I understand those words. And so I guess my follow-up question would be, do we anticipate a time at which that would be at least concluded, at least with RCC, to where then that information would become publicly available?
There will be a time. At some point, city council is going to make a decision whether to pursue that contract or not pursue that contract.
Okay, but we don't know when. There's not, because nothing was mentioned earlier in the meeting, so I didn't know where we were on that.
But I don't want to force you to run off to the Government Records Council and file a complaint. But I mean,
no, Randy, I take you in good faith. That's fine. I'm just trying to get an understanding of where this is.
No, there was nothing nefarious about it.
I didn't think there was from your part.
It's truly a contract negotiation issue. I think City Council wants to address that issue, certainly in the first half of this year. And so I don't think it's going to be long.
Okay.
Randy, if I may, that issue is going to be addressed at the next city council meeting. Because I did in fact talk to the vendor, and it's no secret, it was already brought out in the public session about some issues with the landfill and with RCC and with the Pinelands Commission. And something pertaining to the Pinelands is not satisfied, and they're telling us that we have to start the process all over again. Well, I had that conversation with Mr. Jeff Day, and he's going to be coming into the next city council meeting to give a review of what he has done, what he has provided, and who in fact is right and who is in fact wrong. And he's also going to have a report from the Pinelands Commission as well. That's where we are headed.
Well, respectfully, Mr. Mayor, I have opened the correspondence from RCC back in April that included the February 2020 report from the Pinelands Commission, which is rather clear on what their expectations are. And and again, being as respectful as I can with this, over the years, there's been a lot of representations regarding what Pinelands is saying, but very little in writing. But now that you have something in writing that is going on being a year old with no other response, I would think it would behoove City Council to take that very seriously, whether that's pursuing alternative paths or not. So I'm
Well,
just,
quite frankly, Mr. Pogue, the Pinelands has been aware of everything that we have been doing for 10 years, and they've never made any comments about anything that was inappropriate, incorrect, wrongly proceeding on how we're doing this. They never uttered a word.
Mr.
And
Mayor,
they've been, and they were aware of it. The DEP has basically already signed off on
And that's
everything that we
irrelevant.
have done. And now the Pinelands is coming up with something that we've never heard of,
from the
as
be-
well as the vendor who's been maintaining the landfill for the water quality testing we've been doing. This is all brand new. It's like, where did these guys come up with this, the Pinelands? We
Mr.
don't know why they're saying this stuff. And I can assure you that the vendor's gonna get to the bottom of it, and he's gonna make a report to the council, in which then we're gonna evaluate where we go at that point.
Mr. Mayor, I've posted those reports on Facebook and on various pages. It is very clear from the Pinelands that there's been no monitoring well data since 2018. It is very clear to anyone who's been looking at this subject for a long period of time. They know that since the landfill is in the Pinelands, DEP is not the final factor.
No, they're not.
It requires Pinelands approval and has required Pinelands approval from the beginning, and they have their own set of criteria to go through it. And I'm just cautioning everyone involved to be very clear on what, in fact, those 11 pages actually say versus what other representations may be made, however well-intentioned or not, by other individuals. And so I think that's just very important for everyone to take a look at and take the time to take a look at and perhaps look at alternative paths to as safe as possible of a solution. Going to the snow piece, since the polar vortex apparently is splitting, and this may result in a negative phase in the oscillations, which is meteorological code for we may get more than we thought we would. I would also ask that perhaps council strongly consider some sort of policy regarding plowing of individual driveways, because over the years at various points that's become an issue, and it seems to be more based on who you know, or who's able to grab onto the authority to do it and go from there, which would also take me to the question of if anyone of the rest of us in city were unable to participate in dumpster day, are we able to make arrangements with Public Works and have stuff put into the dumpster at Public Works garage?
Your brother paid $535.
Thank you.
Because after all, my brother paid for a dumpster for $500. So I'm just,
So we have a dumpster that sits out on our pit 365 days out of the year. We also have one in the city yard. And it has been known that people who develop trash that they cannot get rid of to the recycling company that comes to pick up, the ACUA, or to our sanitary company, which used to be another company, but now it's the ACUA. When there's just too much, we have taken it for others. And it just so happens to be, Mr. Bogan, I know what you're referring to and where you're going. And all I can tell you is I have lived in Estell Manor for 40 years. Never one time, ever, did I ever even take a tire over to the city yard when we have our 2 times a year annual dumpster day. And it just so happened to be that I had my house that was delivered that I'll be moving into shortly. And that was delivered, and I said to Mr. Cornu, I'm not gonna be able to get it all over here today. I'm not gonna be able to make it today. He said, we'll just bring it over at a later time. He says, we've done this with other people. So there was no inconvenience, no extra time of any employee to have to take care of what I did. I loaded it on myself. I got rid of it by myself. The city has an annual contract each year. That's part of the contract.
And we pay a
Those
tipping fee.
dumpsters, and we're talking mainly plastic is all that it was, sheets of plastic, which has no weight to it, a couple of pallets. There was no environmental waste. So if there was something that I did illegal, then all I could strongly suggest is somebody should call the cops. And you can call the Environmental Crimes Unit over at the prosecutor's office. But there have been other people that have done this over the years, and I wasn't able to make it on recycle day. And Mr. Cornu just simply says, we'll just come over at another time when you can.
Well, Mr. Mayor, with all
And
respect,
by the way,
you've
now
just
had
you've
now
just made
had,
an admission against your interest and
nearly,
just.
nearly 15
Oh,
minutes.
I'm done. You did that very well. Thank you. I don't want to interrupt that any further. Thank you.
If I committed crime, all I can tell you is please contact the Environmental Crimes Unit.
Well, there's other
You know, a lot of
places
other
that
people.
there's other places that may get involved with the term. It's called official misconduct. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see what the pattern is. Thank you very much for your time. Anyone else in the public?
Yes. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, Larry Gosson. Yeah, Mayor, if I may, if this would be the appropriate time to go back over some of the appointments that you made at the reorganization. Briefly, did I miss it, or did I understand you to say that you would be acting alone as the Finance Committee? I think there were some other committees that didn't seem to have any appointments made,
So I will be
namely
handling them committees.
landfill, public works, and personnel. Could we
I'm
go
not
back
handling
over those?
personnel. Not handling personnel, no. They were assigned. The ones
I
that weren't
see.
assigned are the ones that I'll take care of.
Excuse
I think
me?
you can I said the ones that weren't assigned are the ones that I'm taking care of.
Finance
That's state statute, that's under my review.
alone?
Yes, I can do that alone.
You're doing that alone. Landfill,
Stop, Mr. Lafferty, do you want to explain, what you explained to us the last time around? We were in closed session for the personnel, discussion pertaining to the committees, whether in fact we even have to have them, or if it's the mayor's job to maintain all of them. And I don't have the ability to maintain all of them, so I've delegated out the ones that I'm not able to take care of.
Well, under your form of government, the mayor makes all appointments to committees. And as I understand it, the mayor has appointed himself to public safety, finance, and several other committees.
Public Works alone, Mayor?
Yes,
Landfill alone? Landfill alone, Mayor?
we're gonna run these down one by one.
I'm only, I had a couple specific ones in mind. Landfill alone, Mayor?
Yes.
So finance, landfill, public works,
And public safety.
and public safety all yourself. That's a pretty big bite, Mayor.
Thank you.
I hope that you can,
I can handle it, I can handle it well.
I have a level of concern as to your ability to serve the city, to serve the citizens of the city by yourself in those roles alone, without accepting or asking for the help of any of the other members of council. I've hearkened back to Mr. Pogue's comments about using the gifts and skills and abilities of your fellow council members that have all been duly elected by members of the community because we trust them, Mayor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public?
Have something. Mayor,
Can we finish with the public first so that we can close the meeting to the public?
well, actually, I'd like to ask a question of a member of the public with your permission.
We're gonna do this every month, it looks like. Go ahead. You're a member of city council.
We're gonna have an open public session every month, is that what you mean?
We have an open public session every month, and you're a member of city council, and anything that you need to bring up, I mean, you could go within some type of report, or old business or new business. I mean, I don't know why you need to have a forum where it's open to the public.
Well, I'd like to ask a question of Mr. Pogue, and I don't want to, if I don't ask it here and now in the presence of council, the only opportunity I would have to ask him would be in between council meetings. And frankly, given some of the dialogue I've had with others recently, with all due respect to Mr. Pogue and his family, I would like to be able to continue to say that I do not speak with Mr. Pogue at any time except at council meetings. So is it all right with you if I ask you a question, ask Mr. Pogue a question?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Pogue, I appreciate your input on a lot of things, not necessarily on everything, but I appreciate your input on a lot of things because, as we all know, you're smarter than the average bear, and you have some experience in this seat that we sit in, and you have some experience with past affairs of the city, and I don't think there's a stronger archivist in the city of Estell Manor, so that you're not only a smart guy, you got a lot of information. As it relates to the report that you've, your own assertion here put up on Facebook, I would imagine that you read it all 11 pages first.
Yes.
Okay. In your experience, based on what, having been a past elected official in Estell Manor, et cetera, did you find cause for concern in what you read?
Definitely.
Thank you. That is all.
And yes, just for the others' information, Mr. Dilge and I do not have conversations outside of council meetings. Happy New Year anyway. Say hi to Tammy for me.
Anyone else from the public?
It's Wayne, the zoning officer. Can you hear me?
Yes, Wayne.
Okay, I just wanted an FYI. In these ordinance changes, anything to do with land use has to be approved by the Pinelands before you initiate it, put it into your ordinance book, or put it online in general E-code. I just want everybody to remember that.
That would be correct, yes. Thank you.
Mayor? Is that the zoning officer?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Mayor, does the zoning officer have any kind of report on what's happening on 6th Avenue?
Yeah. The zoning officer was, the gentleman on 6th Avenue was here to see me tonight when I was in Estell Manor. And I went out, he came in the building, I ran him out of the building. And I went out to speak to him. And he knew all the laws and knew none of them. And I explained the facts of life to him and what would happen if he does not comply. So that's my update.
Has there been a letter sent?
There was a letter sent, and you know, you have to file open requests to find some of this stuff out, okay? First of all, it's in the process of being worked on. There was a letter sent. He came in tonight. I spoke to him. We went over a lot of things, and I think I made a believer out of him. Okay? So we will continue to work on it. And if he doesn't comply, we will go to court. And as I explained to him, he'll pay a fine and he'll do what I told him he has to do anyway.
Do you have any further reports on other development that's happening along 6th Avenue?
I have no other, I had no other complaints about 6th Avenue but that one.
Larry, actually, the meeting is not open to the public. I mean, the zoning officer made it clear, if you have anything that you really need to know, you can file an open request, but honestly, you had something that you could bring up, you had sufficient time to speak, and.
Have you been out there, Mr.
We're not,
Mr. Zoning Officer? Have you been out to the site?
The meeting is not open to the public right now, Mr. Gosson. I'm sorry.
Yes, it is.
Excuse me, it's open to the public. You've already spoken. You already had your
Yeah,
time.
Mr. You can feel free to contact me added this
Wayne,
agenda.
he's already had his time to speak, please. And others want to reiterate what they had to say, so please, let's just move the meeting on. Is there anyone else in the public who has anything to say? Randy, do we have anyone that's flagging in?
Anyone else? There's one chat, hold on for just a minute. Nope, I don't see anyone else. So, no.
Okay, I make a motion to close the meeting to the public.
We're going into closed session.